Imagine for a moment you're in Clayton Stenson's shoes. One day you're a pastor embracing new fatherhood, and the next you're walking through an unimaginable loss. Clayton and his wife's world turned upside down when they lost their first child, just 35 hours after that child was born. It was a heartbreak that no one could foresee, and it's the kind of grief that doesn't just visit you. It moves in, unpacking bags of sorrow and questions that challenge faith to its core. In my time with pastoral transitions, I've learned something vital, that there's no one-size-fits-all reason why people leave ministry. It's not always about misconduct or money troubles or mismatched places. Sometimes life just hits you with the unthinkable. So this is Clayton's story, one of many unique and deeply personal journeys that we've encountered so far. And as you listen, you might find pieces of your own story reflected in his. So let's dive in. This is the Life After Ministry podcast. Hey, welcome to the Life After Ministry podcast. My name is Matt Davis, and I'm flying solo. My wife is out and about today, but not necessarily flying solo because we have a great guest here today. His name is Clayton Stenson. Hello, Clayton.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Now, you are not here in the States. You're just north of the border. Where are you at? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm in Calgary, Alberta, up in Canada, near the Rocky Mountains. And I'm a family guy of 3 boys, 7, 5, and 3. My wife
busy.
Stays at home. Yeah, pray for me. And I'm a coach consultant within the EOS space, and love what I do.
Yeah, the 3, 5, and 7, and all boys. That's those are the minivan years. That's you're
We
running
actually don't
around.
have a minivan right now. We had a minivan for a while, but it was a bit of a problem.
Yeah. I used to make fun of people in minivans, and then I had one, and I thought, man, I love this so much. I would have it even if I were single. It's so great. There's multi-purpose, just lots of great stuff, to work around with a minivan.
Yeah.
Hey, so we're here to talk about life after ministry, not minivans necessarily. But here's how I'd like to start is you were in ministry at one point. You were working in a church. How did you get into, and what was like that call into ministry? What did that look like?
Yeah, so I was not a Christian growing up. I only went to church 3 times before I came to the church that I ended up working at. And so I was 28 when I got saved. And I was in a rough spot. Like I was, really had a lot of depression and anxiety prior to that. Was in what I call hermit mode. Just really was internally like just a wreck. I ended up inviting myself to that church, and I'll just tell the story because it's powerful. I remember the first day that I came, the message was called "Giving the Gift That Is You," and it just talked about how God created us all with gifts and abilities that are meant to be used to glorify God and to help people around us. And I just remember thinking, wow, this guy's reading my mail. Like, how does he know, that I'm, in the state that I am? And then shortly after that, I did the Alpha course, and I got saved through the Alpha course. And
awesome.
I just dove in. I'm like, if this is the truth, then I need to question everything and not, and just dig into this and learn everything that I can. So I just started, obviously going to church every week, attending, helping out, taking every course they had to offer, podcasts, books, like just got super deep into it, and just loved the vision and loved what we were doing. So got more and more involved, and eventually they asked me if I would like to come on board as the facility manager, and I did. And then later it kind of advanced into, did their Bible college, in-house Bible college, and became a pastor, and ended up there for 7 years.
So 7 years as a pastor and working within vocational ministry inside the walls of the church. That's how you got in. What brought you out of ministry? So
what brought me out was that, so October, this would have been 2014, my wife and I finally, after years of trying, had our first son. And unfortunately, like, it was full term, everything was good, but it was a C-section, emergency C-section, and when he came out, he wasn't breathing, and they made me leave the room. I still don't really understand that totally, but anyway, they made me leave the room. I was crying out to God, asking God, to save him, and to help him to live.
And no signs before that moment that there was going to be an issue in the pregnancy or in the birth?
No, everything was healthy all the way through. Even when Livia was in labor, there was no signs of any issues. And then, so 10 minutes I was out of the room, and lots of people were going in, nurses and doctors and stuff. And then they let me go back in. My wife's like shaking, like in shock. And it took 7 more minutes after that before they got him breathing again. And so 17 minutes. And so they said, he's probably not going to live. Mm-hmm. If he does live, it's not going to be good, right? Like, he's going to have major complications. And ultimately, in the end, he lived for 35 hours. And I was with him pretty much the whole time. And obviously that was hard, right? It was like getting hit by a bus. I never even crossed my mind that could happen. Like, it wasn't even a possibility that a baby would die like that. I don't know why. But so after that, we both took 10 weeks off. We did a full funeral. There was over 300 people at the funeral.
What was the church and community support for you in that process?
I really good. Like especially that first couple of weeks, like, we had tons and tons of support, cards and well-wishers and food. And like, there was a lot of support for that first couple of weeks. The church was pretty supportive. They said, take whatever time that you need. I wasn't, I went on, up here it's called EI, unemployment insurance. Right. And I got, paid, that during that 10 weeks. And then, it wasn't too bad the first week, to be honest. Like, we had so much support, and you're running on adrenaline, you're just planning the funeral and making all that. But then the week after that, it got much harder. That adrenaline wore off. And so it was tough. Like, every day we'd get up. Well, we wouldn't get up. We'd wake up, you just in bed. And anyway, so 10 weeks, it was a hard season, but it was also kind of precious. It united Livia and I really well, because we had this shared problem. And then in January, I went back to work.
So it's 10 weeks later?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I dove right in, and I'm like, what, this is, I was excited. I think I was happy to have a distraction, and I was doing pretty good for probably about a month. But I remember my wife being like, you don't talk about him anymore. Like, she wasn't all right, and I seemed to be. And that was a problem, for us. But the distraction wore off, and then I went into a bad place again. And I say that grief is like waves. In the beginning, they're big and they're fast and they're regular. It's just a normal part of grief, I think. And those waves like came back hard and fast. And I found myself like just losing it at work, and like having to go in the sanctuary and just cry. Right. And just like a real mess. So, I tried to hold it together. We were doing grief counseling and different things. But after 10 weeks of working again, I'm like, I can't do this. Like, my wife's a mess. I'm a mess. And so I asked my pastor if I could just, could I just take a sabbatical? Like, I think I need a year. Like, people are coming to me and asking for prayer and support. And I'm like, I'll pray for you, but can you pray for me? Like, because I'm really struggling. Like, it was a really hard stretch.
Can we dig into that for a second? Because my thinking is, obviously it's hard to process your own stuff inside ministry when there's other people who are coming to you. But help us just understand, like, what is that like when you're going through your own stuff? Why being a pastor in those situations, like, I know that some people, they just say, like, if I wasn't a pastor, I'd be a bread delivery truck driver, because, at the end of the day, if I crash the truck, then it's just bread, right? No harm, no foul. But at the end of the day, the truck is also empty. In ministry, the truck is never empty. But why was it just in particular that being in ministry was, obviously you're dealing with a tremendous amount of grief and loss, but to do this job and simultaneously process that grief, why was that so difficult?
I think even prior to all of this happening, I don't think I'd really figured out how to do ministry in a healthy way. I think I always kind of felt like I was on the verge of overwhelm, and this just kind of felt like it pushed me over the edge, and I couldn't hold together anymore. And I think, there's this fallacy, I think, that you have to, if you're a pastor, like you're in a fishbowl and everybody's watching you, you have to be not perfect, but you have to, be, have it together. Right. Yeah. And I think that was part of it. I didn't. Right.
Do you think that we as pastors put ourselves in the fishbowl, or do you think the church and the system, how it's set up, does that?
Depends on the church. I think,
yeah. and the person, right? Probably.
Yeah. And I think it's a bit of both, right? Yeah. Like I'm not placing blame on anyone. I know for sure that I did that to myself a certain amount. And I'm not in that church anymore, but the church that I'm in now, I'm so thankful for our pastor, because he, I just love how he doesn't put himself there. Like, he very intentionally keeps him out of there. Like, he'll introduce himself and say, I'm one of the team here. Right? Like, he doesn't even say that he's the senior pastor, and he'll say stuff like, I have nothing for you, but I'm going to tell you, we're going to read from God's word today and see what God has for you today. Like, he just has a very healthy humility about him. But I don't think that's super common, at least not in the circles that I've been in. So does that make sense?
Totally. So did you get that 1 year sabbatical?
Yeah. So yes, they said, yes, no problem. Yeah, you can take as much time as you need, but essentially I was told, that we can't protect your job during that time. And, at the time I was like, that's fine. I don't really care at this point.
I'm in survival state, right? Like, do what you need to.
Like, I'm a mess. Like, I can barely get through the day, so I could care less about, what happens in a year from now. Really, I know that God loves me and he trusts, and he's going to take care of me. So I was like, sure, whatever. It doesn't matter.
And is the church paying during this time? Are you getting paid by the church, or is there something else? Or you just, it's a full,
again, it's just the EI. I'm on the EI, which is a couple $1,000 a month or something. And,
which I think is not much at all, right?
No, I was fortunate. My wife was also getting that, and we had some financial support and some financial means, so it wasn't the end of the world, but it was tight. But we didn't want to do anything anyway, so we weren't spending much money.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was a year passes and you're coming back? Are you saying, I don't think I'm coming back? Like, what was the actual exit? Was it kind of in stages like this, or was there just a moment where they came back and they said, hey, we're filling your position? How did that end?
No, so I went and got a job with a construction company because I needed work. I took another 10 weeks and then I got a job with a construction company. And the owner said, I want you to be a project manager. And I was like, no, I don't. Like, I want to be the bread truck driver. Like, just give me a hammer. And, yeah, I just want to be responsible for me only. And, there really was there wasn't much of a conversation after that, with the church. I still attended there, after that, but, there was never, they checked in from time to time, but there was never like the years coming in, do you want your job back? I didn't really want it back.
Really? You came out of ministry, you swung a hammer for a little bit, and then you moved into a new space. Well, give me a little bit of a sense of what is it that you're doing, and how is that transition process, that life after ministry process, where You might be attending meetings with people, but you're not praying beforehand, and there's no biblical application to it. You're probably around people that are cursing, whatever, all those different changes. But
Yeah.
what are their transferable skills? What are the things that you like? This is good. Like I can take what I know from my ministry experience, and I can bring this in to this environment.
Yeah, I'll start by telling you the story about day one after I told them I wanted to take a year. And even that night, I remember crying, like talking with my wife and just crying. It's like, how am I ever going to make a difference? Mm-hmm. How am I going to help people now? Right. Like, I think my identity was way too wrapped up in being a pastor and not wrapped up enough in Christ. And so I struggled. And then I remember that week I went for a walk with a good friend of mine who was in my wedding party and was a part of that church. And I remember just crying and pouring out my heart to him and being so concerned about how could God ever use me again. Right. And part of that was probably the pain, like the grief and the depression and all the stuff that was going on around me. But it was not a fun season.
Sure.
And a good friend of mine gave me a book, and I don't remember the name of the book, but it was just about how God doesn't really care what you do. He cares who you are. Right. And it doesn't matter what context you're in, your life can have a big impact. And that book was really helpful. And I had, also did like grief share groups and a secular grief group. And we were part of baby loss support groups, and I got counseling, and, we did a lot, because what I've heard is that grief is coming out, whether you like it or not. Like the pain and the tears and all that stuff is going to come out. But if you do it in a healthy way, it'll come out, it'll come out in healthy ways. If you don't, it might come out in alcoholism, or you might end up much worse off using other coping mechanisms. So I really struggled for a while. And then in the end, I got a job at the construction company. I'm a leader. Like I just can't not lead. Like it's just part of who I am. So it didn't take very long. I would say probably like 2 or 3 months. I was kind of unofficially in a site superintendent role, kind of helping manage a big project that we had. And my role just kept growing, and the owner, he's a great guy. He never kind of forced me. Like he just kind of allowed me to take as much leadership as I felt ready for, which in retrospect, I really appreciate. He knew I was capable of a lot more than what I was doing. And then eventually he promoted me into estimator role. And I remember people saying to me, how does this work? Like, how do you go from pastor to construction worker? Like, I don't get it. Like, how is that work? But yeah, it works extremely well. Like it's people, right? Whether it's church or management, it's people. Right. And, eventually I got promoted to the second in command role there, and was extremely successful in that role. And we 22 times net profit in 12 months implementing a system called EOS. And it felt second nature to me to do the things that I was doing, partly I think because God gifted me with that, but partly because of the experience that I had at the church leading teams and, casting vision and building systems and training people and all of that kind of stuff. It definitely was a great preparation for that next role. And I know when he promoted me to that role, he's like, Clayton, I've seen you do this before. Like you did it at the church. I'm certain you can do it again, and you'll be better at it. You'll be better at it than me. So I'm going to let you run with it.
Yeah. I always wonder, it's an interesting thing that, we have people who are alive today who used to be president, and though they are not in the White House any longer, they're still called president, even though they don't officially hold the title, but that title follows them, carries them. And I, not that, there's some kind of head issue of like, we're really high and mighty as pastors, but do you feel like you're what, this was 2014, 2015 for you. So we're looking at, almost a decade later. Do you still look at yourself in any way as a pastor, like holding that? And has that changed? Or is there a moment where you realize like, no, I'm actually no longer a pastor? From a title perspective, like, do you still have people? Like, I still have people. I'm not in ministry. I've been out of ministry for, not in the church ministry. We got to make sure we specify that. But there are still people who call me pastor. But I don't hold that title within a church. Did that disappear for you, or do you still see yourself like that? Do other people still see you like that?
Kind of a funny story. I attended the church for 6 years after that, and then we moved to a different city. But I had people come up to me on Sunday and talk to me as if I worked there, and for years. Right till when I left there, and I bet if I went back there today, they would still do that.
Right. Yeah.
And I would just pretend that I was, and I would help. Right. And so I don't have anybody call me pastor anymore. I still function that way. Like I still have that hat. Right. Like that hat is still there, and I pull it out sometimes when I'm coaching somebody and the stuff that I do now. It's like, okay, in my head I'm like, okay, I need to switch hats. Right, like this person needs a pastor right now. They don't need a coach or a consultant. They need a pastor, And so my answer would be, I don't know. I think I am. I'm capable of that. I can go there if I need to. It's a tool, kind of a tool in the toolbox, if you will.
Sure.
But the thing that I do have is a very solid perspective of how much people matter to God.
So if Clayton 2023 could go back and talk to Clayton 2014 on the night of day 0, when you just go home and cry and you're asking the question, what will I do with my life? How can I ever be used again by God? Being on this side of things now, what would you tell yourself then?
I would say that the thing that I've realized is that back then I was in what I call the Christian bubble. And it was really unhealthy when I think about it. The only people I ever talked to were people that really came within those 4 walls, or my family, my parents and my sister, the in-laws and stuff. And it was a very limited perspective. And I remember that first year it was like culture shock. Like you said, the cursing and the, listening to non-Christian radio and, like all the stuff that I was experiencing again. Not that I'd never been in that world before, but it felt like culture shock. But what I found was when I became estimator, all of a sudden I had all these relationships with business owners and, subcontractors. And I was able to have influence with people that I never would have met otherwise. Then I joined a networking group, and there's another 50 to 100 people that I had influence on that I could witness, and they know that I'm a Christian and I can, shine God's light into their life. And now I network with hundreds, maybe thousands of people all over the world, and I'm able to, share my grief story and minister to them in Zoom calls where we're both crying. It's crazy now how I think God is using me way more now than he was then. And so I would say, yes, don't worry about that. God still has a plan for your life.
So there's life after ministry, and there's ministry after ministry. Definitely. There's hope, no matter where you're at. So, Clayton, thank you for sharing your story. You're in the EOS environment, which is, when I was a pastor, I had no idea what EOS was or Rocks or what a CRM was. And so your world is very different. You jump into companies and really help them to organize and put in systems in place so that they're running efficiently, setting goals. Everybody's rowing in the same direction, essentially. But if that's something that like somebody's listening and they're coming out of ministry trying to figure out what's next, or they're resonating with what you're talking about and want to just reach out and figure out what they're doing with their life, what's a good way to reach you? Do you have a website? What does all that look like?
Yeah, my website is theunityguide.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn. And I am happy to have a conversation with anybody who's, dealing with grief, lost a child. I know how lonely that can be. and you're not alone. So if you're in that boat and you want to talk to somebody, I'm happy to, or anybody who's exiting ministry or somebody that wants to learn about what I do. I want to help.
It's good. Even in the title, The Unity Guide, there's a ministry, kingdom-mindedness to what you're doing there. So I appreciate you sharing your story and just even the authenticity that you've brought to it, and just the humility in realizing, like, I don't think I can do this in this way. But so thankful that God has brought redemption in every way. And I don't know if everybody can hear this, but I've heard moments of your 3 boys. I don't know, or maybe it's just one really loud boy in the background, but it sounds like your kids. Thank God has restored. And you have 3 children, those 3 boys, and I could hear them. And there's just something good about hearing there's some life that's happening behind you, and that you guys were able to have those children.
There's a lot of life.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Maybe a little too much life at times, right? Well, Clayton, thanks for sharing. Thanks for coming on the Life After Ministry podcast. Go and be blessed.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Life After Ministry podcast. Our mission is to help you navigate the complexities, the joys, and sometimes even the beautiful moments of life after ministry. Whether you're a ministry leader thinking about a transition or a stakeholder in the decision-making process, we hope these conversations bring you both clarity and comfort. And we believe that any transition can really be a gateway to transformation, and that there's not just life after ministry, but there's also ministry after ministry. If you found value in today's episode, consider subscribing to this podcast, and don't hesitate to share it with anyone that you think might benefit. The journey is sacred, and we're committed to walking alongside you, providing resources, encouragement, and a community where stories are heard and valued. And until next time, keep leaning into these opportunities, these transitions, these transformations, and the challenges that come with life after ministry.